The fluorescent lights of Monroe's diner hummed their usual tired song as Maya Washington wiped down table 7 for the third time that morning. Her dark hands moved in practiced circles, the worn yellow cloth leaving streaks across the laminate surface that would need another pass. Through the window, Atlanta's downtown skyline caught the early September sun, glass towers reflecting wealth she'd never touch. She was 43 years old, a widow for 2 years, and completely invisible. Maya, Cheryl's voice cut through the breakfast noise. Silverware clanking, coffee machines hissing, the low rumble of morning conversations. Table 12 needs water. Maya nodded, tucking a strand of graying hair back under her server's cap. Her feet ached in the cheap sneakers she'd bought from the discount store on Ponce de Leon Avenue. The soles were wearing thin, but new ones would have to wait. Rent was due in 5 days and she was still $40 short. Table 12 was in her section, the corner booth with the cracked vinyl seats that nobody wanted to fix. Maya filled a pitcher with ice water, the cold condensation immediately dampening her palms as she carried it across the black and white checkered floor. She'd been working at Monroe's for 7 months now. Before that, it was housekeeping at the Marriott on Peachtree. Before that, night shifts at a nursing home in East Point. Always cleaning, always serving, always invisible to the people who left their messes behind. "Just water for now," the man at table 12 said without looking up from his phone. He was young, white, wearing a suit that probably cost more than Maya made in a month. She poured his water and moved on. This was her life, had been since Marcus died. The heart attack had come without warning. 41 years old, strong as an oak tree one moment, gone the next. The medical bills had swallowed their tiny savings like a hungry beast. The life insurance policy he'd let lapse to pay for their daughter's college textbooks, that came back to haunt her in the worst way possible. Shanice was at Georgia State now, studying nursing. Maya's pride and joy, her reason for getting up every morning at 4:30 to catch 2 buses to this diner in Buckhead, where people with money came to eat eggs Benedict and complain about problems that weren't really problems. "Table 9 is ready to order," Cheryl called out again. Maya's shift had started at 5:30 that morning. It was now 7:45 and already she could feel the exhaustion settling into her bones. But she smiled, always smiled, as she approached table 9. The couple there barely acknowledged her existence as they rattled off their orders. Gluten-free toast, egg whites only. Was the avocado organic? Maya wrote it all down on her pad, her handwriting neat despite her trembling fingers. Diabetes was starting to show its ugly face, but she couldn't afford to see a doctor about it yet. The morning rush continued in waves. Business people grabbing quick breakfast before meetings. Retired folks lingering over coffee and newspapers. Young mothers with strollers parked beside their tables. Babies fussing while they tried to enjoy 15 minutes of peace. Maya moved between them all like a ghost. Refilling coffee, clearing plates, wiping spills, smiling when they finally noticed her enough to make demands. Are you finding this story as gripping as we are? If you're enjoying Maya's journey, consider subscribing to our channel and turning on notifications. We're a small channel working hard to bring you powerful stories that matter. Your subscription helps us grow and create more content like this. Now let's continue Maya's story. The tips were light that morning. $1 here, $2 there. One table left nothing at all, just a napkin with lipstick stains and the mess of a syrup bottle knocked over that Maya had to clean with her hands and knees on the floor. By 9 o'clock, she'd made maybe $15 in tips. Not enough. Never enough. That's when he walked in. Maya noticed him immediately. Not because she wanted to, but because everyone noticed him. He moved through Monroe's front door like he owned not just the restaurant but the entire block it sat on. Maybe the whole city. He was tall, probably 6'3", with dark hair perfectly styled and a beard trimmed with mathematical precision. His suit was different from the others Maya saw every day. This one whispered money instead of shouting it. Custom-tailored, probably Italian. His shoes gleamed like they'd never touched regular pavement. Behind him came 2 other men, slightly less polished but still radiating that same aura of untouchable wealth. They spoke in rapid Arabic, words Maya couldn't understand but recognized from the international students she sometimes saw around the city. "Table for 3, the tall man said to Cheryl at the front. His English was perfect, touched with a British accent that suggested expensive schools far from Atlanta. Cheryl's eyes went wide. She grabbed 3 menus with shaking hands. "Right this way, sir. We have a lovely booth. The corner table is fine." He gestured toward Maya's section, toward table 15. the booth with the best view of the street. Maya's stomach tightened. High-profile customers meant higher expectations. Higher expectations meant more chances to mess up, more chances to get complaints. And complaints meant possibly losing this job she desperately needed. She watched as Cheryl seated them, practically bowing as she handed out the menus. Through the kitchen window, Maya could see even Carlos the cook straightening his apron, suddenly aware that someone important had entered their humble establishment. "That's Sheikh Rahman Al Saud," whispered Tommy, the other server working the morning shift. He'd appeared beside Maya, his young face flushed with excitement. "I just Googled him. He's Saudi royalty. Billionaire. His family owns oil refineries and half of some European soccer team." Maya felt her hands go cold. She'd served important people before. Minor celebrities, local politicians, once even a famous rapper whose name she couldn't remember. But never royalty. Never a billionaire. "He's in your section," Tommy said almost apologetically. "Cheryl's making me cover your other tables. You just focus on them." "Great. More pressure." Maya smoothed her apron, checked her reflection in the coffee pot's chrome surface, and walked toward table 15 with her notepad ready and her smile firmly in place. This was just another table. Just another customer. Just another chance to earn enough money to keep the lights on for another month. She had no idea that everything, absolutely everything, was about to change. As she approached the table where Sheikh Rahman Al Saud sat with his associates, Maya Washington had no way of knowing that this moment would become the dividing line of her life. There would be before and the after would begin with a man who left no tip, but would leave something far more valuable hidden in the shadows where only she would think to look. Maya reached table 15 with her heart hammering against her ribs. Up close, Sheikh Rahman Al Saud was even more imposing. His presence filled the space like expensive cologne, subtle but undeniable. His two companions were younger, perhaps in their late 20s, with the polished look of men who'd never worried about money a day in their lives. "Good morning, gentlemen," Maya said, her voice steadier than she felt. "Welcome to Monroe's. Can I start you off with some coffee or tea?" Sheikh Rahman looked up from the menu, and for a brief second his dark eyes met hers. Really met hers. Not the usual glance that slid right past service workers like they were furniture. He actually saw her. "Coffee, please," he said. "Black. Very hot." Then, surprising her further, he added, "Thank you, ma'am." "Ma'am?" When was the last time someone had called her that? His companions ordered as well. One wanted tea, the other orange juice. Maya wrote it down, acutely aware that her hand was shaking slightly. She hurried to the coffee station where Cheryl was practically vibrating with nervous energy. "Did he say anything?" Cheryl hissed. "What's he like?" "He's polite," Maya said, filling the coffee pot. She selected their best cups, the ones without chips on the rims, and arranged everything on a tray with the care of someone handling crystal instead of diner ceramics. When she returned to the table, the three men were deep in conversation. She caught fragments as she poured. Something about the Dubai property and closing by the end of Q3, and the lawyers in London are concerned about the zoning issues. The words washed over her like a foreign language, a world so far removed from her own it might as well have been on another planet. "Are you ready to order, or do you need a few more minutes?" Maya asked once she'd served their drinks. Sheikh Rahman studied the menu with the same intensity she imagined he brought to business deals worth millions. "What do you recommend?" The question caught her off guard. Customers rarely asked her opinion. They just ordered and expected their food to appear. "The Belgian waffles are very popular," she said carefully. "And Chef Carlos makes excellent eggs Benedict. The hollandaise is homemade." He nodded slowly, considering this. "I'll have the eggs Benedict. And perhaps, do you have fresh fruit?" "Yes, sir. Strawberries, blueberries, and melon this morning." "Perfect, add that as well." He closed his menu and handed it to her with another one of those unexpected moments of eye contact. "You have worked here long?" Maya blinked. Was he making conversation with her? 7 months, sir," she replied. "And before that?" One of his companions cleared his throat, clearly uncomfortable with this exchange. But Sheikh Rahman ignored him, his attention still fixed on Maya. "Different places," she said vaguely. "Mostly hospitality work." He nodded as if she'd said something profound. "Honest work. Important work. My mother always said you can judge a society by how it treats those who serve." Maya didn't know what to say to that. She took the other orders. Both men wanted omelets, one with a complicated list of specifications about what should and shouldn't be included, and escaped to the kitchen. Carlos raised his eyebrows when she handed over the order slip. The Saudi prince is getting our eggs Benedict? Dios mío, Maya. Don't let me mess this up. You never mess anything up, she assured him, though her own stomach was churning with anxiety. While she waited for the food, Maya checked on her other tables. The couple at table 9 needed more coffee. Table 12 wanted his check. Table 6 had a complaint about their toast being too dark. She handled it all with her usual efficiency, but her mind kept drifting back to table 15. Why had he asked about her? Why had he looked at her like she was a person instead of a uniform with legs? 20 minutes later, the food was ready. Maya carried the plates out with extra care, placing each dish gently in front of the men. Sheikh Rahman examined his eggs Benedict with what appeared to be genuine interest. "This looks excellent," he said. Then, again catching her by surprise, "What is your name?" "Maya, sir. Maya Washington." "Maya." He repeated it as if committing it to memory. "Thank you for your service, Maya." She nodded and stepped back, giving them space to eat. But as she moved away, she heard one of his companions speaking in rapid Arabic, his tone sharp. Sheikh Rahman responded in the same language, his voice calm but firm. The conversation was clearly some kind of disagreement, though Maya had no idea what about. For the next 30 minutes, she attended to the table with meticulous care. More coffee, extra napkins, a side of hot sauce that one companion requested. Each time she approached, Sheikh Rahman would pause his conversation to acknowledge her with a slight nod, a small gesture that somehow made her feel less invisible than she had in months. The breakfast crowd was thinning out now, transitioning toward the late morning lull before lunch prep began. Maya had made maybe $30 in tips so far, better than some days, worse than others. Still not enough to cover the gap in her rent. At table 15, the men were finishing their meal. Sheikh Rahman had eaten everything on his plate, she noticed. Not like some customers who ordered expensive dishes and left half uneaten. Waste that made her think of the nights she'd gone to bed hungry to save money for Shanice's textbooks. She approached with the check presenter, a leather folder that had seen better days, its edges worn and one corner torn. "Whenever you're ready, sir, no rush." Sheikh Rahman took it without opening it. Instead, he pulled out a wallet, leather so fine it looked like silk, and extracted a black credit card, the kind that had no limit, the kind that Maya had only seen in movies. "The meal was very good," he said. "Please give my compliments to your chef." "I will, sir. Thank you." He placed the card in the folder and handed it back. As Maya walked to the register, she felt an odd mixture of relief and disappointment. Relief that the high-pressure interaction was almost over. Disappointment that it was ending, because for a brief moment she'd felt seen. She ran the card. The transaction went through instantly. No declined message. No need to call the bank like she sometimes saw with other customers. The total was $127, $50 for 3 breakfast plates and drinks. A normal tip would be $20 to $25, maybe more given his obvious wealth. When she returned with the receipt for him to sign, Sheikh Rahman was standing, buttoning his suit jacket. His companions were already heading toward the door. "Thank you again, Maya," he said, taking the receipt. He signed it quickly, didn't even look at the total, and placed it back in the folder. Then he was gone, following his associates out into the bright Atlanta morning, leaving only the faint scent of expensive cologne behind. Maya picked up the receipt folder with trembling hands. She opened it. Her heart sank like a stone dropping into dark water. Where the tip line should have had a number, any number, there was only a dash. 0. Nothing. He'd paid the exact amount. $127, $50, not a penny more. Maya stared at the receipt, feeling something break inside her chest. All that politeness, all those questions about her life, the eye contact, the ma'am, the compliments, and he'd left her nothing. She felt tears prickling at the corners of her eyes and blinked them back furiously. She would not cry. Not here. Not where people could see. "Cheap bastard," Tommy muttered, appearing at her shoulder to look at the receipt. "All that money and he can't leave a tip? That's messed up, Maya." "I'm sorry." Maya just shook her head. She couldn't speak. If she opened her mouth, she might start crying, and if she started crying, she might not stop. She tucked the receipt into her apron pocket and turned toward table 15 to clear it. The plates were stacked neatly. Sheikh Rahman had even placed his napkin on top, a small gesture of consideration that now felt like mockery. The coffee cups were pushed to one side. Everything was organized as if he'd been trying to make her job easier. Everything except the tip. Maya loaded the dishes onto her tray, her movements mechanical. Plate, cup, silverware, Her hands knew what to do even when her mind was elsewhere, cycling through the interaction trying to understand. Had she done something wrong? Said something offensive? Was this how wealthy people treated servers in Saudi Arabia? She was reaching for the last coffee cup when she noticed something odd about the booth's cushion. The leather padding looked disturbed, slightly raised on one side as if something had been pushed beneath it. Maya glanced around. The diner was quiet now, most tables empty. Cheryl was at the register. Tommy was in the back. No one was watching. She set down her tray and pressed her hand against the cushion. There was definitely something there. Something that didn't belong. Her first thought was that Sheikh Rahman had forgotten something. A phone maybe, or a wallet. She should call him back, return it. But how would she even reach him? Maya lifted the edge of the cushion. What she saw made her freeze. It wasn't a phone. It wasn't a wallet. It was an envelope. Thick, cream-colored, expensive paper, the kind with texture you could feel even before touching it. And on the front, written in elegant script with what looked like a fountain pen, was a single word. Maya, her name. Her name on an envelope hidden under a cushion where only she would think to look because only she would be cleaning this booth. With shaking hands, Maya pulled out the envelope. It was sealed but not heavily, just a simple clasp that opened with gentle pressure. She looked around again, feeling like she was doing something forbidden, something that might get her in trouble. But it had her name on it. It was meant for her. She opened the envelope. Inside was a folded piece of paper, the same heavy, expensive stock. And underneath the paper she could feel something else, something that made her heart start racing even before she knew what it was. Maya unfolded the paper. The handwriting was the same elegant script, each letter formed with careful precision. Dear Maya, forgive the deception of leaving no tip on the receipt. I have learned that in America, large tips sometimes create complications, questions from management, tax implications, unwanted attention that can harm more than help. What you hold in your hands is not charity. It is recognition. In my country we have a saying, the hand that gives is blessed, but the hand that gives in secret is blessed twice. I watched you this morning. The care you took with every customer, the dignity you maintained even when treated as invisible, the quiet strength in your eyes that spoke of struggles you never complained about. My mother was a servant before she married my father. She taught me that there is no shame in honest work, only in how we treat those who do it. Inside this envelope is $50,000 in cash. It is yours. No strings, no expectations. No one needs to know where it came from. Use it wisely. Perhaps for your daughter's education. Perhaps for your own peace of mind. Perhaps simply to breathe easier for the first time in a long time. You deserve to be seen, Maya Washington. Today, you were. May God bless your path forward. R.A. Maya's hands were shaking so violently she nearly dropped the letter. $50,000. $50,000. It wasn't possible. It couldn't be real. This was a joke, a cruel trick. She reached into the envelope with trembling fingers and pulled out what was underneath the letter. Stacks of cash, bound with paper bands. $100 bills, neat and crisp and absolutely real. She quickly stuffed everything back into the envelope, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might burst through her chest. She looked around wildly, expecting someone to be watching, to be laughing at her, to tell her this was all a mistake. But the diner was still quiet. Cheryl was still at the register. Tommy was still in the back. No one had seen. Maya Washington stood in the empty booth, clutching an envelope that contained more money than she'd made in the last 3 years combined. And for the first time since Marcus died, she started to cry. Not from sadness this time, from something else entirely. Something that felt dangerously like hope. Maya locked herself in the women's bathroom, her entire body trembling as she leaned against the cold tile wall. The envelope felt like it was burning through her apron pocket, a secret so enormous she could barely breathe around it. $50,000. She pulled out the envelope again with shaking hands, needing to confirm she hadn't imagined it. The letter was still there. The cash was still there. Real, tangible, impossible. Her mind raced through 1,000 thoughts at once. This couldn't be legal. Could it? Was it some kind of test? A setup? Would the police come bursting through the door any second to arrest her for what? Accepting a gift? But Sheikh Rahman's words echoed in her head. No strings. No expectations. No one needs to know where it came from. No one needs to know. Maya counted the stacks with trembling fingers. 5 bundles of $100 bills, each marked as $10,000. She'd never held this much money in her entire life, never even imagined holding this much money. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. A text from Shanice. "Mom, the nursing program director wants to talk to me about the accelerated track. Call when you can." Maya stared at the message through tear-blurred eyes. The accelerated track. Shanice had mentioned it before, a program that would let her finish her nursing degree a year early, but it required summer courses that weren't covered by her partial scholarship. Courses that cost nearly $15,000. $15,000 that Maya didn't have, that she'd been trying not to think about because thinking about it meant acknowledging she might have to tell her brilliant daughter no. She'd have to take the slower path, work more hours, delay her dreams, because her mother was just a waitress who couldn't make enough money to. "Maya?" Cheryl's voice came through the bathroom door. "You okay in there? Table 8 needs clearing." Maya quickly shoved the envelope deep into her purse, an old canvas bag with a broken zipper she'd been meaning to replace for months. "Coming!" she called out, splashing cold water on her face to hide the evidence of tears. When she looked in the mirror, she barely recognized herself. Her eyes were red, her face was flushed, and something in her expression had changed. She looked like a woman carrying an enormous secret, which, she supposed, she was. She returned to the dining room in a daze, moving through her duties on autopilot. Clear table 8. Refill coffee at table 3, take an order at table 6. Her hands performed familiar motions while her mind spun in circles. What was she supposed to do? Tell someone? Keep it hidden? Report it as found money? But it wasn't found. It was given to her, specifically to her, with her name on it. "Use it wisely," the letter had said. "Perhaps for your daughter's education." He knew. Somehow Sheikh Rahman had known about Shanice. Or maybe he'd just guessed that a woman like Maya, working herself to exhaustion in a diner, probably had someone she was working for, someone she loved enough to sacrifice everything. "Maya, you look pale," Tommy said, touching her arm gently. "You feeling okay? You need to sit down?" "I'm fine," she lied. "Just didn't sleep well last night." But she wasn't fine. She was standing in Monroe's diner with $50,000 in her purse and no idea what to do about it. Every instinct screamed at her to tell someone, to ask for help, to make sure this wasn't going to somehow destroy her life instead of saving it. But who could she tell? Cheryl would think she was crazy or lying. Tommy was sweet but barely 20 years old. What would he know about handling this? The police? What if they took it away, called it suspicious, launched an investigation that would somehow end with her in trouble? No. Sheikh Rahman had been clear. No one needs to know where it came from. The lunch rush started at 11:30, pulling Maya out of her spiraling thoughts. The diner filled with the usual crowd. Construction workers from the site down the street, office employees grabbing quick meals, a few regulars who always sat at the same tables and ordered the same things. Maya served them all with her practiced smile, but everything felt different now. She watched a businessman complain about his sandwich being cut wrong and wondered if he had any idea what $50,000 could mean to someone. She saw a young woman leave a $2 tip on a $15 check and felt a strange mix of gratitude and sadness. $2 used to feel meaningful, but now everything had changed. Her shift ended at 2 o'clock. Maya clocked out, her hand still shaking slightly as she punched her time card. She'd made $47 in tips today, not counting the envelope. $47 that suddenly felt like nothing and everything at the same time. "See you tomorrow, Maya," Cheryl called from behind the counter. "Get some rest, you look exhausted." "I will, thank you." Maya clutched her purse, that old canvas bag now carrying more than her entire year's salary, and walked out into the September afternoon. The Atlanta heat hit her like a physical force. The sun blazed down on Peachtree Street, making the sidewalks shimmer. Maya stood at the bus stop, sweating in her uniform, waiting for the number 110 that would take her toward East Point and the tiny apartment she shared with too many memories. But today, for the first time in 2 years, she wasn't worried about whether she could afford the bus fare. The apartment was on the 3rd floor of a building that had seen better days, probably back in the 1970s. The elevator was broken again, so Maya climbed the stairs slowly, her feet aching, her purse feeling heavier with each step. Inside, the apartment was small but clean. She'd made sure of that. 2 bedrooms, one for her, one for Shanice when she came home on weekends. A kitchen with appliances that worked most of the time. A living room with a couch she'd bought secondhand, and a TV that Marcus had purchased the year before he died. Maya locked the door behind her, threw the deadbolt, and even pushed a chair against it for good measure. Only then did she take out the envelope. She spread everything on her kitchen table. The letter, the cash, all of it laid out under the harsh fluorescent light. It was real, still real, not a dream or a hallucination brought on by exhaustion and desperation. She read the letter again, studying every word, looking for hidden meanings or threats she might have missed, but there was nothing sinister in it. Just kindness, just recognition from a stranger who'd seen her struggle and decided to do something about it. My mother was a servant before she married my father, she read again. She taught me that there is no shame in honest work, only in how we treat those who do it. Maya thought about her own mother, dead now for 5 years. Beatrice Washington had cleaned houses her entire life, had worked until arthritis made her hands twist into claws, had never complained even when clients treated her like she was less than human. She'd raised Maya to believe in hard work, in dignity, in doing right even when no one was watching. What would Beatrice say about this money? Would she call it charity and refuse it? Or would she say that sometimes when God sends you a miracle, you don't question it, you just say thank you? Maya's phone rang, startling her so badly she nearly knocked over one of the cash stacks. Shanice's name flashed on the screen. "Hey, baby," Maya answered, trying to keep her voice steady. "Mom, did you get my text? About the accelerated program?" Shanice's voice was bright with excitement, the way it always was when she talked about nursing. "Dr. Patterson thinks I'd be perfect for it. She said my clinical scores are among the highest in my class." "That's wonderful, honey." Maya stared at the money on her table, money that could pay for that program and so much more. "Tell me about it." Shanice launched into an explanation of the summer courses, the additional clinical hours, how she'd be able to graduate in December of next year instead of May the year after. "The only problem is the cost," she said, and Maya could hear her daughter trying to sound casual, trying not to put pressure on her mother who she knew was already working herself to death. "It's about $15,000 for the whole thing. But Mom, it's okay if we can't. I mean, the regular program is fine, I'm happy to." "What if we could make it work?" Maya heard herself say. Silence on the other end. Then, "Mom, no. I know money is tight. I shouldn't have even mentioned it. I just got excited and—" "Shanice, listen to me." Maya closed her eyes, making a decision that terrified and exhilarated her in equal measure. "What if I told you that something unexpected happened? Something good. Something that means we can afford those summer courses." "What are you talking about? Did you get a raise?" "Not exactly." Maya chose her words carefully. "I received a gift. From a customer. A very generous gift." "Mom, what kind of gift? How much? Who?" "I can't explain it all right now. But baby, if you want that accelerated program, if you think it's the right choice for you, then you're going to do it. You hear me? You're going to do it." Shanice was crying now. Maya could hear the tears in her daughter's voice. "Mom, are you serious? Are you really serious?" "I'm serious." Maya looked at the stacks of cash, at the letter written in elegant script, at the evidence of a stranger's extraordinary kindness. "You're going to be a nurse, Shanice. The best damn nurse Georgia State has ever produced. And you're going to do it your way on your timeline." They talked for another 20 minutes. Shanice asking questions Maya couldn't fully answer, both of them crying and laughing, the sound of hope crackling through the phone line like electricity. After they hung up, Maya sat in her silent kitchen, surrounded by money and possibility. She thought about Sheikh Rahman Al Saud wherever he was now. Did he know what he'd done? Not just the money, though God, the money was life-changing, but the message behind it. You deserve to be seen, Maya Washington. Today, you were. For so long, she'd felt invisible, a ghost moving through the world, serving and cleaning and working, noticed only when she made a mistake or wasn't fast enough. Marcus had seen her. Shanice saw her. But the rest of the world? She'd accepted invisibility as the price of survival. But Sheikh Rahman had looked at her, really looked, and seen not just a waitress, but a mother fighting for her child, a widow carrying grief with dignity, a woman who deserved more than she'd been given. Maya carefully put the cash back in the envelope, keeping out only what she'd need for immediate expenses. She'd have to figure out how to handle this, maybe deposit it in small amounts over time so it didn't raise red flags, maybe talk to someone who understood money, though who that would be she had no idea. Her life had never included financial advisors or accountants. She hid the envelope in the back of her closet, behind the winter coats she rarely needed in Atlanta. Then she sat on her bed, exhausted and overwhelmed, and let herself feel the full weight of what had happened. In one morning, everything had changed. In one act of secret generosity, a stranger had given her back something she thought she'd lost forever. Not just financial security, not just opportunities for Shanice, but hope, the possibility that life could be more than just survival, the knowledge that someone, somewhere, had seen her struggle and decided it mattered. Maya Washington cried until she had no more tears left. Then she washed her face, made herself a simple dinner of rice and beans, and tried to process the fact that tomorrow she'd have to go back to Monroe's diner and act like nothing had changed, even though everything had. Outside her window, Atlanta's evening traffic hummed its usual song. Somewhere in the city, in a hotel suite or a private residence, Sheikh Rahman Al Saud was probably conducting business worth millions, completely unaware of the earthquake he'd triggered in one woman's life. Or maybe he knew exactly what he'd done. Maybe that was the whole point. Maya barely slept that night. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the envelope, the cash, the elegant handwriting spelling out her name. She kept getting up to check that it was still there, hidden in her closet, real and solid, and not just a beautiful dream her exhausted mind had conjured. At 4:30 in the morning, her alarm went off. Maya dragged herself out of bed, her body protesting every movement. The lack of sleep sat heavy on her shoulders, but beneath the exhaustion was something else. A strange, buzzing energy that felt like electricity running through her veins. She had $50,000 hidden in her closet. The thought kept circling her mind as she showered, dressed in her uniform, and caught the first bus toward Buckhead. Around her, other early morning workers dozed or stared at their phones, trapped in their own struggles, their own exhaustions. Did any of them have a life-changing secret burning in their chest? Or was she the only one carrying this impossible weight? Monroe's diner was already lit up when she arrived at 5:15. Through the windows, she could see Cheryl setting up the coffee station and Carlos firing up the grill. Normal. Everything looked so achingly normal. "Morning, Maya," Cheryl called out as she entered. "You look better than yesterday. Get some sleep?" "A little," Maya lied, tying her apron around her waist. The same apron she'd worn when Sheikh Rahman handed her that receipt with no tip. The same apron that had held the envelope for those first terrifying minutes when she didn't know what to do. The morning shift started like any other. Early customers trickled in, the regulars who came every day ordering the same meals, sitting in the same seats. Maya served them with her usual care, but everything felt different now. She looked at their faces differently, wondered about their stories, wondered if any of them were hiding secrets as enormous as hers. Around 7 o'clock, Tommy arrived for his shift. He immediately pulled Maya aside, his young face serious. "Hey, I was thinking about what happened yesterday, with that Saudi guy leaving you nothing. That's really messed up, you know? I was going to mention it to Cheryl, maybe she could—" "No," Maya said too quickly, too sharply. Tommy blinked in surprise. "I mean, it's fine, really. Don't worry about it. But Maya, that's not right. He spent over $100 and didn't leave anything for—" "Tommy, please." Maya softened her voice, tried to smile. "I appreciate you looking out for me, but I don't want to make a big deal out of it, okay? Just let it go." He looked confused but nodded slowly. "Okay, if you're sure." "I'm sure." But she wasn't sure of anything anymore. The secret was already becoming complicated, already requiring lies. Small ones, but lies nonetheless. How many more would she have to tell? And to how many people? The breakfast rush came and went. Maya moved through her duties with practiced efficiency, but her mind was elsewhere. She was mentally calculating. If she deposited $500 every 2 weeks, it would take. She did the math in her head. It would take years to get all $50,000 into her bank account without raising suspicion. Unless she didn't put it all in the bank. Unless she just used cash for everything she could. But that seemed risky too. What if something happened to her? What if there was a fire or a break-in? All that money could disappear in an instant. She was so lost in these thoughts that she didn't notice the man at table 9 trying to get her attention until he actually snapped his fingers at her. "Hello, miss? I asked for more coffee 5 minutes ago." Maya blinked, focusing on him. He was middle-aged, wearing a rumpled suit, looking irritated. The kind of customer she dealt with every day. Demanding, impatient, treating her like an inconvenience. But today something inside her shifted. She looked at him, really looked at him, and thought, "I have more money in my closet than you probably have in your bank account. I could quit this job right now and never have to deal with people snapping their fingers at me again." The thought was intoxicating, dangerous. "I apologize, sir," she said with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "I'll get that coffee right away." She refilled his cup, but her hands were shaking slightly. The power of the secret was starting to affect her in ways she hadn't anticipated. It was changing how she saw everything: her job, her customers, even herself. During her break, Maya sat in the small employee room in the back, staring at her phone. She'd looked up information about large cash deposits, about gift taxes, about how to handle unexpected windfalls. The internet was full of advice, most of it contradictory, all of it making her more anxious. "You okay, Maya?" Carlos asked, poking his head into the break room. "You've been acting strange all morning." "I'm fine, just tired." "You sure? Because if something's wrong, you know you can talk to me, right? We're family here." He gestured around the diner, and despite everything, Maya felt her throat tighten with emotion. They were family in a way. Cheryl, who always made sure Maya got decent shifts. Tommy, who stood up for her when customers were rude. Carlos, who would sneak her extra food to take home when he knew money was tight. These people cared about her, and she was lying to all of them. "I know, Carlos, thank you. I'm okay. Really." But she wasn't okay. The secret was already isolating her, creating a distance between her and the people she worked with every day. How long could she keep this up? The afternoon shift brought a different crowd. Late lunches, early dinners, people stopping by for coffee and pie. Maya served them all, collected her tips, smiled, and nodded, and played her role perfectly. But inside, she was coming apart. Around 3 o'clock, a well-dressed woman came in and sat in Maya's section. She was probably in her 50s, with perfectly styled gray hair and expensive jewelry that caught the light. She ordered tea and a salad, then made a phone call that she didn't bother to keep quiet. "The contractor is being impossible about the pool house," she complained to whoever was on the other end. "He says 60,000, but I know I can get him down to 50. It's ridiculous what they charge these days. 60,000 for a pool house." Maya felt something twist in her stomach. That was more than what was hidden in her closet. The money that could change her entire life. And this woman was haggling over it for something she didn't even need. When the woman finished her meal and left a $3 tip on a $20 check, Maya stared at the money on the table and felt something fundamental shift inside her. The world was unfair. Brutally, systematically unfair. Some people had so much they could throw it away on pool houses, while others worked themselves to exhaustion and still couldn't make rent. Sheikh Rahman had seen that unfairness and tried to correct it, at least for one person, at least for one moment. But accepting his gift meant living with this secret, this weight, this constant fear of being discovered. Was it worth it? Maya thought about Shanice on the phone, crying with joy about the accelerated program. She thought about the electric bill that was overdue, the shoes with holes in them she'd been wearing for 6 months, the medication she needed but kept putting off because the copay was too high. Yes, it was worth it. She just had to figure out how to carry it. After her shift ended at 4 o'clock, Maya took a different bus route home, one that went past a bank branch she'd never used before. She sat across the street for 20 minutes, watching people go in and out, imagining herself walking through those doors with an envelope full of cash. What would she say? How would she explain it? Would they call the police? Would they think she'd stolen it? The fear paralyzed her. She rode the bus all the way home without going into the bank. Back at her apartment, Maya pulled out the envelope again. She counted the money, still all there, still real, and tried to make a plan. She could start small. $500 in her regular bank account. Maybe tell them it was back pay from the diner, tips she'd been saving. That wouldn't raise flags, would it? The rest could stay hidden. She could use cash for groceries, for small expenses, for the things that didn't require a paper trail, and for Shanice's program. Maybe she could say she'd taken out a loan, or that a relative had helped. But Maya didn't have any relatives who could help. Everyone knew that. Shanice knew that. More lies, more complications. Her phone rang, a number she didn't recognize. Maya answered hesitantly. "Hello? Mrs. Washington? This is Robert Chen from Atlanta Federal Credit Union. I'm calling about your checking account. We noticed some unusual activity and wanted to verify." Maya's heart stopped. "What? What activity? I haven't... Oh, I apologize. Wrong Washington. We're trying to reach a Robert Washington. Sorry for the confusion." He hung up. Maya sat on her couch shaking. The paranoia was setting in. Every phone call would make her jump. Every knock on the door would make her panic. Every unexpected question would feel like an interrogation. This was what carrying a secret felt like. This constant, gnawing anxiety. She thought about Sheikh Rahman, writing that letter with such elegant confidence. No one needs to know where it came from. Easy for him to say. He lived in a world where $50,000 was probably pocket change, where giving away that much money wouldn't fundamentally change his life the way it changed hers. But maybe that was the point. Maybe he'd known this would be hard. Maybe the letter had been as much a warning as a gift. That night, Maya made a decision. She would take $1,000, just $1,000, and deposit it at a different bank. Not all at once, but in two $500 deposits, weeks apart. She'd tell them she'd been saving tips in cash at home because she didn't trust banks. Plenty of people did that, it was believable. The rest would stay hidden until she figured out a better plan. And meanwhile, she'd live her life as normally as possible. Same job, same routine, same Maya Washington that everyone knew. Except she wasn't the same anymore. Couldn't be. The money had changed her, was changing her with every passing hour. Around midnight, unable to sleep, Maya found herself pulling out the letter again. She read it by the light of her bedside lamp, studying every word, looking for clues about the man who'd written it. My mother was a servant before she married my father. That line kept drawing her attention. What had his mother's life been like? Had she been like Maya, working herself to exhaustion, invisible to the people she served? And how had she ended up married to someone wealthy enough to have a son who could casually give away $50,000? There was a story there, a story Maya would never know. But maybe the story didn't matter. Maybe what mattered was that someone had seen her struggle and decided to do something about it. Someone had looked at her tired face and aching feet and recognized the weight she carried. Someone had given her a chance to breathe, and she'd be damned if she let fear and paranoia ruin that chance. Maya put the letter away and finally fell into a fitful sleep, dreaming of envelopes and coffee cups, of elegant handwriting and stacks of cash, of invisibility and recognition, of the thin line between a blessing and a burden. Tomorrow, she'd wake up and go back to Monroe's diner. She'd smile at customers and refill coffee and clear tables just like always. But underneath it all, she'd be carrying her secret, learning to live with its weight, figuring out how to transform a stranger's generosity into a better life without letting the fear consume her. It wouldn't be easy. Nothing worth having ever was. But for Shanice's future, for her own dignity, for the chance to honor the gift she'd been given, she'd figure it out. She had to. 3 weeks passed before Maya worked up the courage to make her first deposit. She'd chosen a small credit union in College Park, far enough from her neighborhood that she wouldn't run into anyone she knew. On a Tuesday afternoon, during what was supposed to be a doctor's appointment, another lie she'd told Cheryl, Maya walked through the glass doors with $500 in cash tucked inside an envelope in her purse. Her hands were sweating. Her heart hammered against her ribs so hard she thought the teller might hear it. "I'd like to open a savings account," she told the young woman behind the counter, a girl who couldn't have been more than 25 with bright red lipstick and a name tag that read, Jessica. "Of course. Let me get you some paperwork." Jessica smiled warmly, completely unaware that Maya felt like she was committing a crime. "Are you looking to make an initial deposit today?" "Yes, $500 cash." Maya placed the envelope on the counter, watching Jessica's face for any sign of suspicion. But there was nothing. No alarm bells. No sudden phone calls to managers. Jessica just counted the bills efficiently, asked for Maya's ID and social security number, and within 20 minutes, Maya walked out with a new account containing $500. It had been almost anticlimactic, almost easy, but the relief Maya felt was overshadowed by a new realization. She'd have to do this again and again, slowly and carefully for months or even years, and every single time she'd feel this same crushing anxiety. Meanwhile, life at Monroe's continued. The diner seemed smaller now somehow, the ceiling lower, the air thicker. Maya found herself watching the door constantly, part of her terrified that Sheikh Rahman would return, part of her desperately hoping he would, so she could. What? Thank him? Ask him why? Beg him to take the money back because it was destroying her peace of mind? Earth to Maya, Tommy's voice cut through her thoughts. She blinked, realizing she'd been standing frozen in the middle of the dining room holding a coffee pot. "Table 6 needs refills." "Right. Sorry." She moved mechanically, pouring coffee, smiling, playing her role. But the cracks were starting to show. Cheryl pulled her aside one afternoon during a slow period. "Maya, honey, is everything okay? You seem distracted lately, distant." "I'm fine," Maya said automatically. The lie came easier now after weeks of practice. "Just haven't been sleeping well." "Is it about money? Because if you need to pick up extra shifts..." "No," Maya said too quickly. Then softer. No, I'm okay. Really, Cheryl. Thank you for asking. Cheryl studied her with concerned eyes but didn't push further. Maya felt the weight of that kindness, that genuine care, and it made the lying hurt even more. The secret was changing her. She could feel it happening, like a slow transformation she couldn't control. She was more withdrawn, more guarded. She jumped at unexpected sounds. She triple-checked that her doors were locked every night. She'd even stopped going to her regular grocery store, worried that someone might notice her buying better food, might ask questions. The paranoia was exhausting, but there were bright spots too. Shanice had enrolled in the accelerated nursing program, and the joy in her daughter's voice during their phone calls made every anxious moment worthwhile. Maya had told her she'd taken out a personal loan. Another lie, but a necessary one. Shanice had protested at first, worried about her mother taking on debt, but Maya had insisted. "You just focus on your studies," she'd said. "Let me worry about the money." At night, alone in her apartment, Maya would sometimes take out the letter and read it again. She'd memorized every word by now, but holding the physical paper, seeing the elegant handwriting made the whole impossible thing feel real. You deserved to be seen, Maya Washington. But being seen came with a price she hadn't anticipated. The secret was isolating her, creating walls between her and everyone else. She couldn't fully celebrate Shanice's success, because she couldn't explain how she was paying for it. She couldn't share her relief at finally being able to afford her diabetes medication, because no one knew she'd been rationing it for months. She couldn't tell Carlos that the money he sometimes slipped her from his own pocket was no longer necessary, that she wasn't as desperate as he thought. Every kindness from her coworkers felt like a reminder of her deception. 4 weeks after receiving the money, something happened that made everything worse. Maya was working the afternoon shift when a man in a dark suit walked into Monroe's. He wasn't a regular. She would have remembered him. He was tall, probably mid-40s, with sharp eyes that seemed to catalog everything they saw. He sat in Maya's section and ordered coffee, nothing else. For an hour, he sat there, sipping his coffee slowly, occasionally glancing at his phone, but mostly just watching the diner, watching the staff, watching Maya. Every time she passed his table, she felt his eyes following her. When she refilled his coffee, he thanked her politely but said nothing else. He left a generous tip, $10 on a $3 cup of coffee, and walked out. Maya told herself she was being paranoid. He was just a customer, nothing sinister about it. But the next day he came back. Same table, same coffee, same watchful eyes. "You got an admirer," Tommy teased when he noticed the man. "Maybe he's working up the courage to ask you out." Maya forced a laugh, but her stomach was churning. This wasn't about romance. Something felt wrong. The way he watched wasn't casual interest, it was surveillance. On the third day, when the man came in again, Maya couldn't take it anymore. She approached his table with her coffee pot, her hands shaking slightly. "Is there something I can help you with, sir?" she asked, keeping her voice steady. He looked up from his phone, his expression neutral. "Just enjoying the coffee, ma'am. You make a good cup. It's just diner coffee, nothing special. Sometimes the simple things are the best." He paused, then added casually, "You've worked here long?" Maya's blood ran cold. "A while. Good place to work?" "It's fine." She wanted to run, to hide, to demand to know who he was and what he wanted. Instead, she smiled tightly. "Can I get you anything else?" "No, thank you. Just the coffee." That night, Maya barely slept. She kept running through possibilities in her mind. Was he from the IRS? Had someone reported her mysterious windfall? Was he a private investigator? But who would hire someone to investigate her? She was nobody, just a waitress. Unless Sheikh Rahman's gift had consequences she hadn't considered. What if it was illegal somehow? What if accepting it made her an accessory to something? The next morning, Maya called in sick for the first time since starting at Monroe's. She couldn't face going back, couldn't face seeing that man again with his watchful eyes and careful questions. "You sure you're okay?" Cheryl asked on the phone, sounding genuinely worried. "This isn't like you, Maya. Just a stomach bug. I'll be fine in a day or two." More lies. Maya spent the day in her apartment, pacing, checking the windows, jumping at every sound in the hallway. She pulled out the envelope, counted the money again, $46,500 left after her 2 deposits, and wondered if she should just return it somehow. Find Sheikh Rahman, give it back, go back to her simple life of poverty and exhaustion. But how would she even find him? And what about the money already spent on Shanice's program? She couldn't undo that. Around 3 in the afternoon, there was a knock on her door. Maya froze. She wasn't expecting anyone. Shanice was at school. She didn't have friends who dropped by unannounced. Her neighbors barely knew she existed. Another knock, harder this time. "Mrs. Washington, are you home?" A man's voice. Unfamiliar. Maya approached the door slowly, her heart in her throat. She looked through the peephole. It was him, the man from the diner. "Mrs. Washington, my name is David Park. I'm a private investigator. I need to speak with you about Sheikh Rahman Al Saud." Every nightmare Maya had been having suddenly felt real. She leaned against the door, her legs weak, her mind racing. Should she pretend she wasn't home? Call the police? Open the door and face whatever was coming? "I know you're there, Mrs. Washington. I can see your shadow under the door. Please, I'm not here to cause you trouble. I just need to ask you a few questions." Maya's hands were shaking so badly she could barely work the locks. She opened the door just a crack, leaving the chain engaged. "What do you want?" David Park was holding a leather portfolio. Up close, she could see tired lines around his eyes, gray threading through his dark hair. "May I come in? This would be better discussed privately. I don't know you. Tell me what you want from out there." He sighed, seemingly expecting this. "Fair enough. I'm investigating Sheikh Rahman Al Saud on behalf of his family, specifically his uncle. There are concerns about irregular financial activities, large cash withdrawals, unusual behavior. Your name came up in our investigation." Maya felt like the floor was falling away beneath her feet. "My name? Why would my name?" "You served him at Monroe's Diner approximately 4 weeks ago. You were alone with him briefly. Shortly after, he made a significant cash withdrawal." Park's eyes were sharp but not unkind. "Mrs. Washington, did Sheikh Rahman give you anything that day? Money, perhaps? Or instructions of any kind?" Every instinct screamed at Maya to lie, to deny everything, but she was so tired of the fear, the paranoia, the constant weight of the secret. "I don't know what you're talking about," she heard herself say. Park studied her for a long moment. "Mrs. Washington, I understand this is frightening, but I'm not law enforcement. I'm just trying to help a family understand what their son has been doing with their money. If he gave you something, you're not in trouble. We just need to know." "He didn't give me anything," Maya interrupted, her voice stronger now. "He ate breakfast, he paid his bill, he left. That's all. Now please leave. Mrs. Washington, leave, or I'm calling the police." Park's expression shifted to something like sympathy. "If that changes, if you remember anything, here's my card." He slipped a business card through the crack in the door. It fell to the floor at Maya's feet. "I'm at the Marriott on Peachtree for the next week. We can offer you protection if you're afraid of—" Maya slammed the door shut, threw the deadbolt, and slid down to the floor, her whole body shaking. It was over. Whatever brief moment of hope she'd had, whatever fantasy she'd entertained about escaping poverty and giving Shanice a better life, it was all crashing down around her. She picked up Park's business card with trembling fingers. "David Park, Private Investigations, specializing in financial fraud and asset recovery." Asset recovery. They wanted the money back. Maya crawled to her closet, pulled out the envelope, and stared at the remaining cash. This money that was supposed to save her was destroying her instead. The gift that was supposed to make her visible had trapped her in a nightmare of secrets and lies and fear. Her phone rang. Shanice. Maya stared at the screen, unable to answer. What would she say? How could she explain any of this? The call went to voicemail. A minute later, a text. "Mom, just wanted to tell you I aced my first clinical evaluation. Dr. Patterson said I'm a natural. Thank you so much for making this possible. I love you." Maya started crying, deep, wrenching sobs that shook her entire body. Her daughter was thriving. Her brilliant, beautiful daughter was finally getting the education she deserved, was becoming the nurse she was meant to be, and Maya had put it all at risk by accepting money from a stranger. But was it wrong? Sheikh Rahman had said it was a gift, no strings attached. He'd said she deserved to be seen. Was it her fault that his family was now investigating him? Was it her responsibility to give the money back and sacrifice Shanice's future? Maya didn't know. She didn't know anything anymore except that she was trapped in an impossible situation with no good options. She spent the rest of the day and all night sitting on her floor, surrounded by cash and confusion, trying to decide what to do. Return the money and protect herself, keep it and risk whatever consequences might come, tell the truth and hope for mercy. Every option felt like betrayal, of herself, of Shanice, of Sheikh Rahman's trust, of her own integrity. By morning, Maya still hadn't decided, but she knew one thing. She couldn't avoid this forever. David Park wasn't going away. The investigation wasn't going to disappear. Eventually, she'd have to make a choice. The only question was whether she'd make it before the choice was made for her. She looked at her phone, at the missed calls and worried texts from Cheryl asking if she was okay, if she needed anything, reminding her that they cared about her at Monroe's. Maya thought about her co-workers who had no idea what she was going through, about Shanice who was building her future on a foundation that might collapse at any moment, about Sheikh Rahman, wherever he was, whose act of kindness had somehow become the center of a family investigation. And she thought about herself, Maya Washington, widow and mother, waitress and survivor, trying to navigate a situation she'd never been prepared for, carrying a secret that was slowly crushing her under its weight. The sun rose over Atlanta, painting her apartment walls with golden light. Another day was beginning. Another day of decisions and consequences and the impossible weight of secrets. Maya stood up slowly, her joints aching from a night spent on the floor. She looked at herself in the bathroom mirror, the bags under her eyes, the gray in her hair, the tired lines etched into her dark skin. "You deserve to be seen," Sheikh Rahman had written. But right now, as investigators circled and lies multiplied and fear consumed her every waking moment, Maya Washington wished more than anything that she could go back to being invisible. At least then, she'd been safe. Maya returned to Monroe's diner the next day because she didn't know what else to do. Hiding in her apartment hadn't solved anything. The money was still there. David Park was still waiting at the Marriott. The investigation was still happening. And life, somehow, had to go on. "Maya, thank God you're feeling better," Cheryl said when she walked through the door, pulling her into a quick hug. "We were worried about you. Just a 24-hour thing." Maya lied, tying her apron with hands that had finally stopped shaking. "I'm okay now." But she wasn't okay. She was a woman standing on the edge of a cliff, waiting to see if she'd fall or be pushed. The morning shift started normally enough. Coffee, orders, the familiar rhythm of service that had once been her entire world. But Maya kept glancing at the door, half expecting David Park to walk in, or worse, police officers with handcuffs and questions she couldn't answer. Around 9 o'clock, something unexpected happened. A woman walked into Monroe's, tall, elegant, wearing a cream-colored suit that probably cost more than Maya made in 6 months. She had dark hair pulled back in a severe bun and eyes that assessed everything with sharp intelligence. Behind her came another woman, younger, carrying a leather briefcase. They asked for a table in Maya's section. Maya's stomach dropped. This was it. Whatever was coming, it was happening now. She approached their table with her notepad, trying to keep her voice steady. "Good morning. Can I start you with coffee?" "Yes, please. And we'd like to speak with you when you have a moment, Ms. Washington." The older woman's voice was accented, British maybe or European. She handed Maya a business card. "My name is Fatima Al-Rashid. I'm an attorney representing Sheikh Rahman Al Saud." The floor tilted beneath Maya's feet. I'm working right now, I can't." "We'll wait." Fatima's expression softened slightly. "We're not here to threaten you, Ms. Washington. Quite the opposite. But we do need to speak with you urgently. It's about the private investigator who's been following you." Maya's hands trembled as she poured their coffee. She glanced at Cheryl behind the counter, at Tommy clearing tables, at the normal morning crowd completely unaware that Maya's entire life was imploding in booth 7. "I get a break at 10, she heard herself say. "We'll be here." The next hour crawled by with agonizing slowness. Maya served customers on autopilot, her mind spinning with possibilities. Attorneys, investigators, Sheikh Rahman's family. What had she stumbled into? What had his simple act of kindness unleashed? At exactly 10 o'clock, Cheryl waved her toward the break room. "Go ahead, take 15, you've been working hard." Maya walked to booth 7 instead. Fatima and her associate, who introduced herself as Michelle Chen, a paralegal, had spread some documents on the table. They'd moved to a corner booth for privacy. "Sit, please," Fatima said, gesturing to the seat across from them. Maya sat, her heart hammering. "Am I in trouble?" "No," Fatima said firmly. "But we need to explain some things, and then we need your help." She paused, studying Maya's face. "Sheikh Rahman told me he'd given you a gift. A substantial one. Is that correct?" Maya's mouth went dry. Admitting it felt like stepping off that cliff. But what choice did she have? "Yes." "How much?" $50,000. Maya's voice was barely a whisper. He left it hidden under a cushion with a letter. He said it was a gift, no strings attached. He said, her voice cracked. He said I deserved to be seen. Something shifted in Fatima's expression. A flicker of emotion quickly controlled. That sounds exactly like something he would do. Tell me, Ms. Washington, did anyone else know about this gift? No, just me. And now you. Not even your daughter? Maya's eyes widened. How do you know about Shanice? Sheikh Rahman is quite thorough when he decides to help someone. He researched your situation, understood your struggles. He wanted to make sure his gift would truly make a difference. Fatima leaned forward. Ms. Washington, Maya, Sheikh Rahman has been doing this for years, quietly giving substantial gifts to service workers, people he feels are overlooked and undervalued. He's given away millions of dollars this way. But why? Because his mother was a domestic worker in Riyadh before she married his father. She was Pakistani, considered lower class, treated as invisible. When his father, a minor member of the royal family, fell in love with her, it caused a scandal. But he married her anyway, brought her into wealth and privilege. She never forgot where she came from. She taught her son that dignity isn't determined by wealth or status, that everyone deserves to be seen. Fatima's voice softened. She died 2 years ago. Since then, Sheikh Rahman has been quietly giving away his inheritance, helping people like you, like his mother once was. His family, his father's side, is furious. They see it as squandering the family fortune on unworthy people. Maya felt tears burning behind her eyes. The investigator, David Park, is working for Rahman's uncle, Prince Khalid. They want to prove that Rahman is mentally unstable, unfit to control his assets. They're trying to gather evidence of erratic behavior and suspicious financial transactions. They want to take control of his money, stop him from wasting it on people they consider beneath him. But I'm not, Maya struggled to find words. I'm nobody, I'm just a waitress. Why would they care about money he gave to me? Michelle, the paralegal, spoke up. Because you're evidence. If they can prove a pattern of large, unexplained cash gifts to strangers, they can build a case for conservatorship. They've already frozen some of his accounts. They're trying to track down everyone he's helped. Maya's mind reeled. So the money. They want it back? They want to use it as evidence, Fatima corrected. But here's the thing. Sheikh Rahman's gifts were legal. He has every right to give his own money to whomever he chooses. The problem is he did it secretly with cash, in ways that look suspicious to people who want to find suspicion. What do you need from me? Maya asked quietly. Fatima exchanged a glance with Michelle, then looked back at Maya. We need you to testify, to tell the truth about how you received the money and why. We're building a case to prevent the conservatorship, to prove that Rahman is of sound mind and generous spirit, not mentally incompetent. Your testimony could be crucial. But if I testify, everyone will know. My co-workers, my daughter, everyone. They'll all know I've been lying, that I've had this money. I know it's frightening, Fatima interrupted gently. Believe me, I understand. But consider what's at stake. If Prince Khalid wins, Rahman will lose control of everything. He won't be able to help anyone anymore. And every person he's already helped, including you, might be forced to return the money. Maya felt like she couldn't breathe. Return it? But I've already spent some. My daughter's nursing program. Exactly. Which is why we need to fight this. And to fight it, we need people willing to stand up and say, yes, he gave me this gift. Yes, it changed my life. And no, there was nothing wrong or improper about it. How many others are there? Maya asked. How many people has he helped? We've identified 47 recipients over the past 18 months, Michelle said, consulting her notes. Waiters, janitors, housekeepers, home health aides, delivery drivers. Amounts ranging from $10,000 to $100,000. Most of them are too afraid to come forward. Afraid of taxes, afraid of losing benefits, afraid of being judged. Are you afraid, Maya? Fatima asked, her dark eyes intense. Maya thought about the past weeks, the paranoia, the lies, the crushing weight of the secret. She thought about Shanice thriving in her program, about the diabetes medication she could finally afford, about the new shoes she'd bought without worrying about the cost. And she thought about Sheikh Rahman, a man who'd looked at her and seen not just a waitress but a mother fighting for her child, a woman carrying grief with dignity, a human being deserving of help. Yes, Maya admitted, I'm terrified, but I'm also tired of being afraid. Fatima smiled, the first genuine smile Maya had seen from her. Then you'll help us? What exactly would I have to do? There's a hearing in 2 weeks, family court. Prince Khalid is petitioning for emergency conservatorship, claiming Rahman is a danger to himself and the family's financial interests. We need witnesses who can speak to his character, his intentions, the positive impact of his actions. You wouldn't be alone. We have 4 others willing to testify, but more voices make the case stronger. Maya closed her eyes, thinking, 2 weeks? In 2 weeks, she could either stay silent and hope David Park gave up, or she could stand in a courtroom and tell the truth to judges and lawyers and probably reporters. Her name would be in the news. Her co-workers would find out. Shanice would find out. Everyone would know. But they'd also know the truth. Not lies, not deception, just the simple truth. A kind man had helped her when she needed it most. Okay, Maya said, opening her eyes. I'll do it. The next 2 weeks were the longest of Maya's life. Fatima and Michelle prepared her for testimony, asking her questions, anticipating what Prince Khalid's attorneys might argue. They explained court procedures, what to wear, how to address the judge. They were professional but kind, understanding that for Maya, this wasn't just a legal case. It was her entire life being exposed. Maya also had to have some difficult conversations. First, with Shanice. She called her daughter and told her everything. The breakfast service, the hidden envelope, the money, the lies about the loan, all of it. Shanice listened in shocked silence, then said the words Maya desperately needed to hear. Mom, you should have told me, but I understand why you didn't, and I'm not ashamed. You accepted help when you needed it. There's no shame in that. Then, with her co-workers, Maya gathered Cheryl, Tommy, and Carlos in the break room during a slow afternoon and told them the truth. She watched their faces cycle through surprise, confusion, and finally understanding. Girl, you've been carrying that alone all this time? Cheryl said, pulling Maya into a fierce hug. We would have helped you. We would have understood. I know, Maya said through tears. I was just so scared. So this guy, this sheikh, Tommy said slowly. He's actually a good guy, not some creep. He's a good guy, Maya confirmed. And now his family is trying to punish him for being generous. Carlos shook his head in disgust. Rich people. They'd rather hoard money than let someone use it to actually help people. Their support made everything easier. When David Park showed up at the diner again, Cheryl personally told him to leave Maya alone or she'd call the police. When customers asked why Maya seemed distracted, Tommy covered for her. When the local news ran a story about the upcoming conservatorship hearing, mentioning that service workers who received gifts would be testifying, Carlos made sure Maya had a quiet corner to compose herself. They had her back. They'd always had her back. The day of the hearing arrived cold and gray, Atlanta's November weather matching Maya's nerves. She wore her best dress, nothing fancy but clean and respectful. Fatima had told her not to try to look wealthy. Be yourself. Be honest. That's your strength. The courthouse was downtown, an imposing building of granite and glass. Inside, security and metal detectors and the echoing sounds of dozens of legal proceedings happening simultaneously. Maya felt small and overwhelmed, but Michelle stayed close, guiding her through the process. The courtroom itself was smaller than Maya had expected from TV shows. Wood paneling, fluorescent lights, a stern-looking judge already seated at the bench. On one side sat Sheikh Rahman with Fatima and several other attorneys. On the other side, a group of lawyers in expensive suits representing Prince Khalid. Sheikh Rahman looked up as Maya entered. Their eyes met across the courtroom and he nodded slightly. Recognition, gratitude, apology, all conveyed in that simple gesture. He looked tired, Maya thought. The weight of this fight was wearing on him too. Maya was the third witness called. The other two had been a janitor from Chicago and a home health aide from Miami, both sharing stories similar to hers. Unexpected generosity, changed lives, no strings attached. When Maya's name was called, she walked to the witness stand on shaking legs. The bailiff swore her in and she sat acutely aware of all the eyes on her. Fatima approached with a kind smile. Please state your name for the record. Maya Washington. And your occupation? I'm a server at Monroe's Diner in Atlanta. Can you tell the court how you met Sheikh Rahman Al Saud? Maya took a deep breath and told her story. She described the morning he came in, his politeness, his questions about her life. She described finding the envelope, the letter, the money. She read portions of the letter aloud, her voice cracking on the words, "You deserve to be seen, Maya Washington." What did you do with the money? Fatima asked. I paid for my daughter's accelerated nursing program. I bought medication I'd been rationing because I couldn't afford it. I bought shoes without holes in them for the first time in a year. Maya looked directly at the judge. I breathed. For the first time since my husband died, I could actually breathe without drowning and worry about money. Did Sheikh Rahman ask for anything in return? Nothing. The letter specifically said no strings, no expectations. Did his gift harm you in any way? The only harm came from being too afraid to tell anyone about it, from the shame I felt accepting help like I'd done something wrong. But the gift itself, it saved my life. Then came the cross-examination from Prince Khalid's lead attorney, a sharp-faced man named Bernard Whitmore. Ms. Washington, you said you'd never met Sheikh Rahman before that day, correct? That's correct. So this man, this complete stranger, just gave you $50,000 in cash, and you found nothing suspicious about that? Objection, Fatima called. Argumentative. Sustained, the judge ruled. Whitmore adjusted his approach. Isn't it true, Ms. Washington, that accepting large cash gifts can have legal implications, tax consequences? I don't know much about taxes, Maya admitted, but I'm prepared to report it properly. I'm not trying to hide anything. Yet you did hide it for weeks. You lied to your coworkers, your daughter, everyone around you. Maya felt heat rise in her face. I was scared. When you're poor and suddenly have money, you're afraid someone will take it away. That fear doesn't make the gift wrong. It makes poverty cruel. A murmur rippled through the courtroom. The judge gavelled for quiet. Whitmore pressed on. Isn't it possible, Ms. Washington, that my client's nephew gave you this money because he's not thinking clearly? That someone in their right mind wouldn't give away $50,000 to a complete stranger? Objection! Fatima was on her feet. Fatima was... calls for speculation and is insulting to the witness. I'll allow the witness to answer, the judge said. Maya looked at Sheikh Rahman, then back at Whitmore. You think generosity is a sign of mental illness? You think caring about people who are struggling means someone's crazy? She shook her head. Maybe the world would be better if more people were crazy like Sheikh Rahman. Maybe then single mothers wouldn't have to choose between food and medicine. Maybe then working 3 jobs still wouldn't mean living in poverty. Ms. Washington, Whitmore tried to interrupt. I'm not finished. Maya surprised herself with her own boldness. You want to know if he's thinking clearly? He saw me, really saw me. Most people look right through servers, janitors, housekeepers, we're invisible. But he looked at me and saw a mother fighting for her daughter, a woman working herself to exhaustion, a human being who deserved better. If that's mental illness, then the world needs more of it. The courtroom fell silent. Even Whitmore seemed momentarily at a loss for words. No further questions, he finally said. Maya was excused. She walked back to her seat on trembling legs, barely hearing the next witnesses. Everything felt surreal, like she was watching herself in a movie rather than living through this moment. The hearing lasted most of the day. More witnesses testified, people Sheikh Rahman had helped, character witnesses who spoke to his mental competence, financial experts who confirmed he had every legal right to give away his own money. Prince Khalid's attorneys argued that the pattern of behavior was concerning, that someone giving away millions needed oversight for his own protection. Finally, after both sides had presented their cases, the judge called for a brief recess before ruling. Maya sat in the hallway with Shanice, who'd skipped class to be there. Her daughter held her hand tightly. You were amazing in there, Mom, Shanice whispered. I've never seen you like that. I've never felt like that, Maya admitted. But I'm tired of being invisible, tired of apologizing for needing help, tired of acting like poverty is something to be ashamed of instead of something to fight against. 30 minutes later, they were called back into the courtroom. Judge Sandra Martinez looked stern as she reviewed her notes. Then she looked up at the assembled lawyers, at Sheikh Rahman, at the witnesses who'd given up their time to be there. I've heard testimony today about generosity, about dignity, about what it means to help others, she began. I've also heard arguments about mental competence and responsible financial management. Let me be clear about my findings. She looked directly at Prince Khalid's attorneys. Generosity is not a mental illness. Caring about others is not evidence of incompetence. Sheikh Rahman Al Saud has shown sound judgment, clear thinking, and a moral compass that, frankly, more people could learn from. Maya felt Shanice squeeze her hand. The petition for conservatorship is denied, Judge Martinez continued. Sheikh Rahman retains full control of his finances and decisions. Furthermore, I'm ordering that all investigations into his gift recipients cease immediately. These were legal gifts, freely given and gratefully received. The recipients are not required to return any funds. The courtroom erupted. Sheikh Rahman's attorneys were congratulating each other. Prince Khalid's team looked stunned. Maya just sat there, tears streaming down her face, feeling like the weight of the entire world had just lifted off her shoulders. It was over. Really, truly over. Outside the courthouse, Sheikh Rahman approached Maya. Up close, away from the formal setting of the courtroom, he looked younger than she'd remembered. More human. "Ms. Washington," he said quietly, "I owe you an apology. I never intended for my gift to cause you so much stress and fear. I wanted to help, not create problems." "You didn't create problems," Maya said firmly. "Your family did. You just tried to do something good. Still, I am sorry." He paused, then added, "And grateful. You didn't have to testify. You could have returned the money and walked away. But you stood up there and spoke truth that needed to be spoken." "Your mother," Maya said suddenly, remembering what Fatima had told her. "She would be proud of you." Sheikh Rahman's eyes glistened. "That is the kindest thing anyone has said to me through all of this, thank you." They shook hands. A wealthy sheikh and a diner waitress connected by an act of generosity that had nearly destroyed them both, but ultimately revealed something important about dignity, respect, and the power of seeing people as they truly are. 6 months later, Maya Washington stood in a different kind of courtroom, this time a university auditorium transformed for Georgia State's nursing graduation ceremony. She watched with pride as Shanice walked across the stage in her cap and gown, accepting her diploma a full year earlier than the standard program. Her daughter, her brilliant, beautiful daughter, was now a registered nurse, ready to help others the way she'd been helped. After the ceremony, Shanice found Maya in the crowd. "We did it, Mom." "You did it," Maya corrected. "I just made it possible." "No," Shanice said firmly, echoing words her mother had spoken in a courtroom months ago. "We did it together. You worked for years to give me opportunities. Someone helped you when you needed it, and now I'm going to spend my career helping others. That's how it's supposed to work." Maya hugged her daughter tightly, thinking about invisible threads of kindness connecting strangers across divides of wealth and status. Sheikh Rahman had helped her. She'd enabled Shanice. Shanice would now help countless patients, and maybe those patients would help others, and those others would help still more, ripples spreading outward from one hidden envelope, one act of seeing someone who'd been invisible. That evening, Maya returned to her apartment, which was still small but felt more like home now that survival wasn't a daily crisis. She pulled out the letter she'd kept all this time, the elegant handwriting now familiar as her own. "You deserve to be seen, Maya Washington. Today, you were." She thought about everything that had happened since that September morning. The fear, the lies, the investigation, the hearing, but also the growth, the courage she'd found to speak truth. The relationship strengthened by honesty instead of weakened by secrets. Being seen had been terrifying, but it had also been transformative. Maya folded the letter carefully and placed it in a frame she'd bought specifically for this purpose. She hung it on her wall where she'd see it every day, a reminder that she mattered, that her struggle mattered, that she deserved to be more than invisible. The next day, she went back to Monroe's diner, not because she had to anymore. The money Sheikh Rahman had given her, wisely managed, meant she had choices now, but because she wanted to, because Cheryl and Tommy and Carlos were her family, because she was good at her work and took pride in it. But she worked differently now. When she served customers, she made eye contact, spoke up when they were rude, didn't apologize for taking up space. She'd been seen, really seen, and now she couldn't go back to being invisible, didn't want to go back. And sometimes, when she wiped down tables or poured coffee or cleared plates, Maya thought about the Saudi billionaire who'd left no tip but had given her so much more. She thought about how a single act of generosity had rippled outward, changing not just her life but the lives of everyone connected to her. She hoped he knew. Wherever Sheikh Rahman Al Saud was now, whatever he was doing, she hoped he knew that his gift had done exactly what he'd intended. It had made her visible, and in doing so, it had reminded her that she'd always mattered, always been worthy of being seen. She just hadn't known it until someone took the time to look. Sometimes the greatest treasures are hidden in the most unexpected places. Sometimes the smallest acts of kindness create the biggest ripples. And sometimes, being truly seen is worth more than any amount of money, though having both doesn't hurt either. Maya Washington's story reminds us that dignity isn't determined by job titles or bank accounts, that generosity isn't a sign of weakness, and that everyone deserves to be seen as the full human being they are. What would you do if someone truly saw you? And more importantly, who around you needs to be seen?